Yeah, my computer just died about 10 minutes ago, so I'm up here bumming off Kevin.
Okay, whatever it takes. That's all that matters.
He's scraped the very bottom, but we're here.
Okay, well, we are missing Councilmember Shelton and Councilmember Carroll, but we do have a quorum with the three of us.
Yeah, and I can go back and forth. But
So I believe we will start.
Is it time?
It is time. It is 7 p.m.
I didn't
Ladies and
realize that.
gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the American Fork City Council meeting this evening,
Bring it.
October 13th, 2020. We are, just to let you know, in accordance with resolution number 2020-07-20R, Mayor Frost has determined that the conducting of the meetings in the city council with an anchor location such as the Kidd City Council chambers or administration conference room presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present. So we will be holding this meeting via Zoom, and the Kidd council meetings
Why, that's up
those instructions will remain in effect. We have some public hearings. If there are people that want to make public comment, they can email to zoompubliccomment@afcity.net.
This thing from us resolved it.
Let's go ahead and mute Kevin real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
I didn't think about that.
They need to make those comments prior to 5 p.m. the day of the meeting for the comment to be read into the record. So we'll now hold a public hearing in conjunction with the regular session. Vinland, would you mind muting Kevin?
Oh, I thought you did. Sorry, I will.
No, I'm not able to. I'm not the host. So, okay, there we go. So we will go ahead and start with our public hearing. We were receiving public comment on the declaration of real property at approximately 1350 North, 70 West as surplus and to be disposed of. We will now accept any public comment regarding that. Terrell-Lynn, or George, is there anyone in the council chambers with who desires to make some public comment on that?
No, we do not have anyone here for that.
Okay. We will go ahead then, and we will go on to the second item in our public hearing, where we will receive public comment on the vacation of easements located at 1088 North, 980 East, and at 496 North, 900 West.
We have not received any comments for that as well.
Okay. So we will go on then with our final item of the public hearing. We will be receiving public comment on amendments to the city code as it relates to permits, permitted uses, and building requirements in the CC1 Central Commercial Zone.
We did receive one public comment that I would like to read.
Okay.
We received it from Dustin Cutler of Skyline Holdings Group, LLC, to the American Fork City Council concerning parking requirements for higher density developments. I am excited to see American Fork being the first city in northern Utah County to start to address the need for greater investment in the downtown areas and addressing the growing need and demand for higher density housing in our community. As a small local developer, I am looking forward to the possibility of adding new investments to the city on a scale that doesn't create huge projects with hundreds of units and require tens of millions of dollars. I feel that with smaller developments, it is easier to maintain a sense of community, and I thank the City Council for considering changes to parts of the city that will make smaller, higher density projects possible. As a small developer, the biggest cost and deterrent to a project is the amount of space needed for parking. I agree that in this area, we are still dependent on cars for almost all of our transit, but I would propose the city consider adopting the same parking requirements for the changes to the CC1 zone as they have for the TOD areas. Currently, the city requires 2.25 parking units per dwelling without consideration for size or number of bedrooms. In the TOD area, the requirement is 1.5 per dwelling. I suggest that for smaller 1 and 2 bedroom units, the city explore the possibility that reduced parking requirements to match the TOD zone, allowing for higher density under the new CC1 zone, and possibly allowing on-street parking to count towards requirements. I think this will help the city avoid turning downtown into an area that seems to be mostly parking lots. The downtown area is more walkable than the current TOD zones. Yes, you can ride Front Runner to your office at the point of the mountain if that is where you work, but there are no grocery stores, pharmacies, or any other convenience that you would not have to get in your car to go to get. As compared to the downtown area that is conveniently located to stores and services that support all your basic needs within walking distance. Thank you. And that is the only comment we received for that item.
Thank you, Tara Lynn. So with no additional comment, we will close the public hearing and we will go ahead and start into our regular session. Tonight, we would like to excuse the mayor. He is away on a family event and will not be joining us tonight. So I am Councilmember Taylor and I will be taking over in his absence. Very inadequately, but taking over nonetheless. So we will start with an invocation by Councilmember Stacy Carroll, and then we will go to a roll call. Councilmember Carroll.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. We thank Thee for the opportunity we have to meet together. We're grateful for Thy Spirit. We're grateful for Thy guiding principles. Please bless us that we will work with a spirit of camaraderie and that we will remember the things that we have been taught. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember Carroll. You're having a little bit of an audio problem there at the end. I hope that's just temporarily.
Well, maybe I'll call in on my phone too, so that I can.
It's good. It's good now. There seems to be no problem now. So.
Oh man. Okay. We'll see. How fun.
Yes. Okay. We will now have a roll call for this evening. Councilmember Christiansen.
Here.
Councilmember Shelton. Has anyone heard from Councilmember Shelton?
Not
Okay. Councilmember Barnes.
here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
And I am Councilmember Taylor, and I am here also. Okay, we will move right into our 20-minute public comment period. Tara Lynn, is there anyone there who would like to have public comment this evening?
No, there's no one here and we received no comments via email.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. We appreciate that. We'll now move on to the city administrator's report. Mr. Bunker.
Mr. Taylor, I have nothing to report tonight, but thank you.
Okay. We will then go ahead into our council reports. We'll switch it up and we'll start from the opposite end. Councilmember Carroll.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnes.
Kev, you're muted.
I need to read it instead of just click. Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And Councilmember Christiansen.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Well, I will just make a short report on the high school. The state soccer tournament has started this past week. American Fork was the #1 seed in the region for American Fork High School girls soccer. They played Weber tonight, welcomed some folks down from the north, and they defeated Weber 3-0. Their next game will be Thursday night at the high school again at 4 p.m. And I don't know who was the victor of Bingham or Corner Canyon, but we will play the winner of that game. So it is I think it's fantastic that our kids have been able to be in school, have abided by the rules that has allowed them to continue in school, not only academically, but athletically by wearing the masks and being diligent in those things. And so we appreciate all their efforts in doing that and wish them the best of luck in the rest of the tournament. That is all we have on the mayor's report. We will now move to the common consent agenda, which consists of approval of the September 8th, 2020 city council minutes, approval of the September 15th and the September 22nd city council minutes, approval of the authorization to release the improvements durability retainer for $75,556.45 for Easton Park Phase 2, approval of the authorization to release improvement durability retainer of $31,248.10 for Easton Park Phase 3, approval of the authorization to release the improvements durability retainer of $1,050 for Castell Von Schmuel, and the ratification of city payments September 16th through October 6th, 2020, and approval of purchase requests over $25,000. If there are no questions or concerns, I would accept a motion for the common consent agenda.
Councilman Taylor, we did have a couple of corrections to the minutes.
Okay,
On the September 8th minutes, on page 9, under the review and action on a resolution declaring real property to be surplus and disposed of, I've just been asked to include the location of the property, so I'll be adding that address into the motion.
okay,
1120 North and 150 West. And then there were just some minor spelling corrections to the September 16th minutes.
okay.
And that is all.
Very good. Thank you, Tara Lynn. Any additional changes or comments from the council?
With that, Clark or Councilmember Taylor or Mayor Pro Tem, apologize.
Clark is my name. It
There you
works
go.
perfectly well, Rob.
There you go. I'll make that motion to approve the common consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Have a motion from Councilman Shelton,
Second.
second from Councilman Barnes. We will go ahead and vote if there's no additional questions. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Thank you. We will move ahead now to the action items. Action item number 1, review and action on the appointments of Jason Rupp, term ending 2023, and Shannon Magleby, term ending 2023, to the library board. Does staff or anyone have any thing they would like to add to this or talk about? Two very worthy individuals who work hard and are diligent on this committee. We are grateful that they're back.
Are these reappointments?
I thought Shannon Magleby was at least. Am I incorrect in that?
Barbara, do you know?
She has not been on recently. She may have served previously in years past.
Okay, so then these are just appointments.
In both cases.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Shannon has worked on multiple committees with the city, and I've worked with her.
Yeah, I thought she had worked on that one.
Okay,
With
Well,
that, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I enjoyed reading their bios and learning a little bit about them. And I moved to approve the appointment of Jason Rupp and Shannon Magleby to the library board.
thank
I'll
you,
second
Councilmember
that.
Carroll, and appreciate the second, Councilmember Shelton. Any questions or any additional information on this motion? Okay, we will go for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Thank you. Action item number 2, review and action on a resolution declaring real property located at approximately 1350 North 70 West to be surplus and disposed of. Any questions for staff on this?
I had a chance to look at it and I feel comfortable making a motion to approve the resolution declaring real property located approximately 1350 North, 70 West to be surplus and disposed of.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Carroll. We will take a roll call vote if there are no additional questions or information. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Action item number 3 is review and action on an ordinance approving a vacation of a portion of public utility easement at 496 North, 900 West, Lot 7 of IFA Subdivision Number 2.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance approving the vacation of a portion of the easement at 496 North, 900 West.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Councilmember Barnes on the second. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Item number 4, review and action on an ordinance approving a vacation of a portion of public utility easement at 1088 North, 980 East, Lot 28 of Autumn Crest Subdivision. Any questions on this for staff?
I'm happy to move to approve the ordinance approving the vacation of a portion of the easement at 1088 North, 980 East.
Thank you, Councilmember Carroll, for that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Christiansen.
Question.
Question on that. Go ahead, Councilmember Barnes.
On the agenda, it says Lot 28 of Autumn Crest subdivision. Does that need to be part of the motion, or is that address close enough?
There's the 1088 North, 980 East that's in the motion. Did you see that portion?
Right, but then on the agenda, it then says Lot 28 of Autumn Crest subdivision.
The
Is that
address
just
is enough.
redundant? Is that,
Yeah, the address is enough for that particular motion.
that's just redundancy. That's what I thought, but because it was that way, it confused me.
We
Yeah.
brought that in from the Department of Redundancy Department, Kevin, so that is taken care of.
Very good. Well done.
Any further questions on the motion? Okay, we'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and I will vote aye also. Action number 5 is an ordinance adopting an amendment to section 17.4.401 of the American Fork City Development Code entitled CC-1 Central Commercial Zone. I know there's been considerable talk about this and the changes that were there. This has come forward from the Planning Commission. Who would like to jump into a discussion on this, or is there discussion on this?
I'll just, if I could, Councilman Taylor, I'll just give a brief background. This went to the Planning Commission. It went to them twice as a discussion item, and then the most recent time it appeared before them was a hearing on the proposed amendments. And so what we did as staff is incorporated the comments and suggestions and ideas they had and what they would like to see in the ordinance as it moved forward. And that is what's before you tonight. The main thing this does is it does open up the CC1 zone to residential uses. And then in so doing, they also looked at some of the uses that were that are currently permitted in the zone. And you'll see that there's a number of strike throughs in the draft. They felt that some of those uses that are that have the strike through were no longer applicable in the CC1 zone, as they're found in other areas of the city that have more space, if you will. An example of that is the hospital, also drive-through food establishments. You find those in other commercial zones, whereas the CC1 zone is more compact. Typically, you have a lot smaller parcels, and so it was also looked at as kind of a cleanup of the uses for the downtown area. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But again, what's before you tonight is the result of a number of discussions heard at the Planning Commission level, and then it's moved on to you.
Okay.
Well, I'll start out with a little picky thing. On page 34 of the packet, in group There goes my cat. Sorry. He wants to make a motion to, 4 and 5. I can't read my notes here. Maximum setback is 10 to 15 feet. Maximum building setback range of 10 to 15 feet from the street. And then in 4-7, so down a little ways, gasoline service station pumps, whoa, go back, shall be set back at least 20 feet. So a maximum of 15 feet for buildings, but a minimum of 20 feet for gas pumps. You usually have gas pumps associated with some sort of a building, so that should be at least referred to, like in 5, it should say, except for gasoline service stations, something like that, because those two taken together don't fit.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you're saying there. Can you guys hear me? My sound is
Yeah.
being weird.
Yep,
No, you're
yep,
good.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I can see why you're saying that.
I would
Barbara.
agree.
So maybe in number 5, except for a separate entry for gasoline service pumps, see number 7 or something like that. So that we
Adam,
don't get people confused.
Did the planning commission have any discussion on gasoline service stations?
They didn't really, they felt, I mean, that wasn't a use that they felt needed to be taken out. I can see the conflict there. But that was not brought up there, so.
Okay, I'm fine with that, Barbara, that suggestion.
I'm taking notes too, so I can provide Terry a clean copy.
Thank you, Adam.
Question I had real quick there, Adam, you mentioned no drive-throughs. I know that Schwig's looking to put one in. Would this have any impact upon them or any store like that being put in there? It says no drive-through for fast food with like sit down, but it said fast food with drive-through service shall not be permitted along Main Street. So I didn't know if that took out like your beans and coffee, took out, your Schwigs, things of that nature.
I think what you could do is you could clarify that. You could say fast food with sit down, fast food sit down with drive-through. That was the intent of the Planning Commission, was they didn't want basically the sit-down fast food restaurants with drive-through. They felt that we have enough other areas in the city that those are allowed. But no, it wouldn't have any effect on the Swig or anything else that's down there or that's already been approved. And again, the intent was that sit-down area with the drive-through is what they were going for. So if we need to clarify that, that can be done as well.
I would encourage some clarification there, because even though it's not the intent, that is how it reads.
Yep, I can see that.
Okay.
What's the difference between a sit-down restaurant with a drive-through and a restaurant that doesn't have sit-down with a drive-through, as far as functionally planning wise?
That's kind of my question as well, is it's kind of a drive-through is a drive-through. And
Yeah.
what about cleaners?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a cleaners and fast food?
My thought there was just the parking. That's the only thing I could think of with the lobby being there was the parking issue. Whereas when you look at Beans and Coffee or Brew, or I'm probably butchering their brand altogether here, but
Yeah, those ones, yeah, you're correct, Councilman. Those ones would not have any associated parking with them, being just the drive-through only service.
So then, do we need to be specific then? Because again, a dry cleaner, you could park and go in. Do we need to be specific with that as well? Is there a need?
Which are you referring to on the dry cleaner? I'm sorry, I'm missing that
I'm looking
one.
for that as well.
Well, it's on 5. We talk about restaurants and food drive-ins, fast food with sit down or takeout, fast food with drive-through service shall not be permitted. So my point is there are other types of businesses that have drive-throughs, like cleaners, and then we've pointed at the Swigs, etc. I'm wondering, does that does that need to be mentioned in this as well for the other, we've clearly lined out restaurants and fast food. I don't know. Personal service, I guess it could be a personal service establishment. The dry cleaner could be a personal service establishment.
Yeah, right now, that's probably what that would fall under if anyone had a question on locating.
It would.
Okay.
It would.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're saying that we would allow drive-ins for food establishments that do not have parking.
So it would be rather than including fast food with drive-through service shall not be permitted. It may be cleaner to read that drive-throughs shall not be permitted with the exception of drive-through only establishments.
I like that much better.
That works.
Okay. Any other items we need to address?
The only question I had was just the overall concept of it. I brought this up in the planning commission meeting when they first talked about it. And my biggest worry down there is traffic. We already know Main Street's getting pretty backed up. UDOT's doing some stuff down there by Doug Smith to try to get that to go, but it starts backing up all the way through. We know we're already at a failing level of service there on First East and State Street. And, the only thing I worry about is to get this in.
Main Street?
Main Street, State Street, sorry. Did I?
Yeah, you said State Street. I just wanted to make sure I still knew my city.
No, that's good. That's good. I get that one backwards all the time. So that's the one that I would look at is just how does this affect like our master transportation plan? And then we're talking about putting UTA somewhere down through here and all of that. I'm going, okay, how's this all going to come together? Because I just get worried about the traffic that's already there, yet alone you put in a 4-story, residential unit, and the size of these things are going to have to be about half to a full city block to justify the expense. So we're talking a pretty big development that would put quite a bit more traffic there than your storefronts that are there currently.
So I would like to look at item 4.5, and my suggestion would be to strike out the last line. All buildings and structures located at the edge of the zone shall be a height with those limited to a 2-story maximum height. And that's inconsistent with anything we've ever talked about with zoning. That's inconsistent with the Planning Commission's discussion about height. And that would be my suggestion. The zone currently has no height limitations. So unless there's a really compelling reason to just arbitrarily put it in, I don't know that we want to just create our most dense zone and suddenly put restrictions on a place that it hasn't had it before. When our consultants came in as we were looking at this, they specifically mentioned the fact that we don't have height limitations as something that was beneficial to us.
And maybe just to give you a counter idea there, council member, I'm very much in favor of that because I think that it blends in well with the existing zones. So if you don't have a soft, I would guess, integration with that, we have had people come back in zones where they butt up against and they're like, wait a second, that totally changed the character of my residential feel because now I'm looking across the street at a 3-story building, right? And so even in the TOD, we went out and we smoothed it out so it wasn't high density right to residential. So the idea is to kind of create that buffer that brings it back down so you don't have these residential zones going right against the high density.
Yeah, and I'd push back a little bit on that for 2 reasons. One being that this zone is very small. So the edge of it is pretty much the whole thing. The whole thing is an edge.
I was going to say there's no non-edge in this.
Yeah, it's really small. And secondly, normally if you're creating buffer zones, you create that with a zone, not just inconsistent language like that. Oh, and there's also another good reason, and that is that another zone adjoining it, CC2, doesn't have height limitations as it is.
So my biggest worry was like your R1, let's see, where we at? Oh, the map that's there was that R4 7500. You look right there where that's at, and you're going south of the library right there. That's definitely a residential feel to me. That's not a commercial feel at all. I would see that being more on the Main Street, or as some call it, State Street, or First East that's right there. And then you look at the top that's going up here by Forbes Elementary. That again is a very much residential feel up there, in my opinion. So I would see more of that dense use, mainly staying on that State Street area. And you got the R2 7500 over here. I just feel like those are definitely residential feels to it. So all of a sudden put a 5 or 6 story building right there wouldn't feel like it's contiguous planning. And I don't know, did we create a whole different zone for the TOD? And it was all part of the overlay zone. We just made a special carve out for the different areas, and maybe that's what we need to do here versus throw it all under one. I don't know. But I would just tell you, if I was a resident living in that area and all of a sudden that would change the residential character of that neighborhood, where you would have duplexes or fourplexes that are allowed that are now 4, 5, or 6 story buildings.
That's allowed right now in the zone to have a higher building.
Yes, commercial,
So when
right?
they go and look, and that's just how it is already.
Without residential. And there was no real financial incentive for the commercial American Fork to go that high. I don't think we have a commercial building. Well, I take that back. We've got the one that just Woodbury built in the office complex, but outside of office space, I would say it'd be a bit different, but I know I just look at it. If I was sitting in that zone, I'd be upset if all of a sudden it was across the street from me.
A happy medium would be the fact that you look at the fact if you have commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor, these buildings are quite small. It doesn't allow for any larger or much larger residential uses for a different size family or somebody who wants to have more room. So I think 2 stories is a little bit too small.
Do we want to get into that kind of language where we are talking about how many levels we will allow? Or I would love to hear from Adam or from John, Chairman Wolfenden, on what the Planning Commission's thoughts were on this. The notes are there, but I would like to hear what, John, if you wouldn't mind, kind of telling us a little bit about the feeling of why this came forward as it is.
Well, I don't remember it being limited to 2 stories because Adams always told us that there was no restriction on building height, and we just rely on our staff to lead us down the right road. I don't know where this 2-story thing came in for sure. I don't recall that being even discussed in the Planning Commission because we've always thought that the CC1 zone would have no height restrictions on the buildings.
In
We've
one
always
of
had trouble
the
deciding how far north and south of Main Street the CC1 zone was going to go.
in one of the earlier, in one of the 2 discussions that we had with Planning Commission, there was some back and forth. Some of the commissioners felt that it would be wise to have some kind of a step down at the edges, and then others felt, no, this is our downtown, build it up. And so that was kind of done as a compromise. I would support either way if it is taken out completely. I don't think that will ruin anything in the downtown area. I think it will still help to build that up. Again, if it stays and we find that it's a hindrance to development on some of those outer areas, it may come back and through a development group and be requested for removal. So either way, I can support, but But I do think if you want to boost your downtown, it probably would be better to not have that in there.
And I agree. If we limit it to 2 stories only, most developers aren't going to be economically feasible to stay that low and make it work for them. We're trying to rejuvenate downtown. We don't want to put any extra hassles in the way of the developers to come in and help us make the downtown something that we're proud of.
So council, what would you have us do?
I think we ought to take the 2-story thing out and just let the staff decide how tall I can be next to the residential zones. Because like I said, we don't want to limit the development downtown. We've got a disaster there now. Nobody wants to go downtown. And they keep saying parking is the main reason. Well, that's not neither here nor there. I think we need to stay as positive as we can and make the buildings, they not limit them to 2 stories.
I would suggest taking it out.
Is there a way to zoom into that map just a little bit more so we can see how that zone is split up? I think it's important to look at those edges. I mean, you're talking about people's backyards that you're butting up against. It's not a road. And that's my big issue. So if we do that, I think we need to rezone it to go to a straight road. So it's a nice straight cut. I mean, again, who in their backyard would want 5 or 6 story buildings right there in your backyard? That to me just doesn't make sense. At least make it flat so we could smooth out and make it more, of a square if we wanted to or whatever, versus these backyards and everything that's associated with it. If we take out the 2 stories, that would be my ask.
And I have to agree with Councilman Shelton. I think we ought to zone the whole block, not go in backyards, but use the streets as our boundaries on the zones as much as possible.
So
I'm just going to throw one wild one in here right now. But before I do, I can see both sides to this issue. If I had a house there and somebody wanted to build 3 or 4 or 5 stories, it would probably tick me off. And so I can understand that. And it has historically been kind of a residential area where the business district right along Main Street, everything was the same size as the home. So it didn't bother the people that lived there. The second item is, what is it we really want to do with this downtown area? Are we trying to make it so it really is a business-friendly area that's going to, in a sense, compete with other business areas such as the TOD, obviously, and some others? And then you've got the Meadows. If we want to have it be a business district and revive itself, I think we have to leave the door open for people to do a little more of what they want to do, which conflicts with keeping it at 2 stories. So I see both sides of it. My third comment is just because this seems to be a good place to put it in. Councilmember Shelton has mentioned more than once that we need to sit down and look at all of our zoning in the downtown area and some other places around town. We need to clean some of these things up, as I understood what he was pushing for, all in one meeting, and quit doing this little bit. We'll do a street here and a subdivision or a block here or whatever. So I'm just going to throw out that we need to set up a work session with the Planning Commission and work through this item.
Well, and I looked at it. Oh, sorry.
What's that?
I was just going to say, I appreciate bringing that up. Good example is that CC2 that's sitting right there on First West. How did that become CC2 surrounded by CC1? It makes no logical sense at all to me. Now, if we change that, they can keep their use, but we can at least change the overlay. So down the road, that's going to be it. But I know, Clark, you were talking about putting the train or the buses down First West and having some high density down there. But that CC2 right there in the middle is going to cause issues with that, right? Any developer trying to do that is going to have to basically go just to the north. I don't know how you could do it going south.
They could easily ask for a zone change. Again, this stems largely also from, we just had the advisors group do the study on downtown, and one of their suggestions was open it up for residential uses. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take those first steps into that study. So I think this is a good first step in that direction. And if we need to clean up the boundaries of the zone, that's definitely something that can be done.
Well, we've just talked about that several times, and there's 3 examples on the screen. There's 2 little CC2s, and over on the right side, which I think is the east, there's that CC2 and the R2 7500. I don't want to have a big discussion about this tonight, but I think it's obvious we need to have a separate discussion and look at all of this. And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, before we move on, I have some other comments on a couple of the items, but let's finish this part of it first.
Okay, sure.
Councilmember Taylor, if I could mention, so it sounds like Planning Commission may not have necessarily addressed this specific point, and there's a lot of discussions of significant point for developers. I know that there's probably some developers that are gearing up and ready to go, but it may be something that we want to send back to Planning Commission to have further discussion on this themselves, so that there's a clear understanding from council what Planning Commission's opinion is on this specific issue, as opposed to this change as a whole, but really narrowing in on this specific issue. Because it sounds, and reading back through Planning Commission, it does sound like there were some strong feelings that may have, I don't want to say got brushed through, but maybe weren't addressed quite as much because of some misunderstandings that they had.
I'm confused. I don't understand what misunderstandings they would have. I mean, the goal was to amend the CC1 zone to allow residential uses. That's what we did. If we want to have a separate item of discussion and clean up the boundaries of the zone, that's something that can be done as a city initiated zone change. But as far as the CC1 zone itself, I feel that the Planning Commission gave fairly good recommendations on that, as they discussed it a number of times and then forwarded the draft to the council. I guess I'm just confused if this goes back to the Planning Commission, I'm not sure what direction to drive them in, because I feel that they've presented a draft that opens that up for residential uses.
So Adam, I think that's a good point. My struggle is John, when asked, didn't have the idea that this was coming forward with the language that it has this evening. Is that correct, John, or is that my misunderstanding?
I don't know where the two, the minimum of, or the maximum of 2 layers or 2 stories came into it. Like Adam said, we've talked about opening up the CC1 zone for residential use. And that's what we were concerned with mostly, was what would go in the CC1 zone along with residential units. And I think if we keep that in mind, never mind the boundaries of the zone right now, let's figure out how to make it usable to put residential in. And I'm thinking if we do that, saying 2 stories maximum is not going to make it work, because you're going to have more residential above the ground level commercial to make it economically feasible for developers. And I think a second thing is, if you remember down 5th East on the west side of the road there, when people started selling their homes out and going commercial a chunk at a time, we came back and did the whole side of the street and changed it to commercial. And it was kind of a good lesson for the people, because they learned the property was actually worth more commercial zone than it was residential. And now that area is taken off, and there's all kinds of things starting to pop up on the west side of 5th East. But I think we need to have a joint session and go over this as far as the islands of zoning that's in the middle of other islands or other zones. But I know when it came before the Planning Commission, the whole thing was to figure out how to make it work with residential in the CC1 zone. And that's why we tried to limit certain things from being downtown, to make it more walking friendly for people that want to move there and actually live in a CC1 zone in a residential unit, but be able to walk to the stores or to the gas station or whatever it may be. So we're kind of mixing water and oil here together. One is making a CC1 zone available for residential. Another one is clean up all the islands and the boundaries of the CC1 zone.
Well, and for me, John, I feel like they go hand in glove.
Rob, I
Well, they go
disagree.
together,
I
yes.
disagree. They are two separate items. We could do the text amendments at one point and then the edges of the zone at another point.
which could be item 3 and 4 on an agenda, but I would much rather better understand for me to vote whether 2 stories or not. I'd like to know where the boundaries of the zone are at. I'd like to know how they interact. I think that's sound planning when we look at it. When we
But you
talk
didn't
about,
have that concern at other points when the zone has been like this for a long time.
it has, and I brought it up at Planning Commission. I asked as a council member to attend, and I brought this same concern up to the Planning Commission in their very first meeting. So it's not something I'm just bringing up tonight. John, I brought this same thing up with these zones and everything that's there. When we first started looking at the going to the school district and saying, hey, we want to do a help me out here, zone down here, economic development zone or RDA, we define the downtown being from Pacific Drive to First South. I think that's maybe something that would coincide with that quite a bit, but maybe you go up Barrett Avenue, but to pass it tonight and say, oh, we'll get back to it sometime later, quite frankly, as a council member, I've seen that never happen sometimes where we forget about it. And 2, I'd like to be able to cast my vote knowing where's that boundary going to start and end.
Well, that's why we need a joint work session with all the planning commissioners and all the city council. Bring a sandwich and a can of Coke and let's iron it out and get it done once and for all and quit studying it and just make it happen.
Well, and then I'll bring
That's
up
kind of where I'm at too. We've been hammering it to death. I'd rather just have the council as a whole look at it.
Even at the rate we're looking, we don't even define what an edge is.
Yep.
Well, we've always had trouble deciding where it goes, how far north and south of Main Street. And maybe you're right along, if it abuts right on Main Street, maybe that's a different overlay for the commercial zone. Because you want your businesses right on Main Street, maybe not apartments, I don't know.
And I think this is the first time we've really had this discussion as a council, and it's on action for approval. I know when we looked at Ventaro, Clark, you know how many meetings we were in on that one. That was a long, long discussion talking about high density down there in Ventaro. The TOD took us more than 90 days to be able to have discussion and joint work meetings. So I think we're changing the character of our downtown quite significantly. And it would be wise to take the time to make sure we got the traffic figured out and some of these other concerns.
If I could just add one last point, I think what we are talking about, as others have alluded to, is we're talking about 2 separate issues. One is the code text amendment that allows residential in the CC1 zone. That's what's before us tonight. If we want to have a joint work session with the Planning Commission about the edges of the zone and where that zone will ultimately extend, I think that's a worthy discussion to have. But I don't know that it's not necessarily what's before us tonight. Again, the Planning Commission looked at what parameters they were comfortable in having housing downtown. In the earliest discussion, yes, you're right, Rob. You brought up the concern of height limitations around the edges. Some of the planning commissioners agreed with that. Some did not, but we put it in there and it was approved as such. We can easily take that out if that's the will of the council. But I think the larger discussion on rezoning the islands of CC2 or extending the boundary of the CC1 down to First South or wherever the boundaries ultimately extend to, I think that's a different discussion. But I know we do have some development groups that are anxious to see the housing component be allowed downtown, and they would like to move forward with that.
But I guess that's what worries me is I hate to give them one signal and then change it. I think when we did the TOD, we did.
I don't know what would be changing for them because the code amendment would allow that. And then the ultimate boundaries of the zone is a completely different discussion.
Okay, so let's say someone was looking at Barrett Avenue and all of a sudden we pulled the rug out from under them because they thought, oh, that's CC1, and then we changed the boundaries on them. When we did the TOD discussion, we identified the area with the code. That's been very consistent with what we've done in the past. So for me to decide 2 stories or not, I've got to know where that boundary is going to be at.
Well, I don't see the boundary shrinking, if that's what you're saying. I don't see that as, I don't see a property being taken out of the CC1.
I agree 100% with what Adam's saying. I think it's two issues. They're related, but they're two separate issues. And right now we're concerned about making the CC1 zone residential friendly. That's our agenda tonight. Let's take the two-story requirement out and move forward with the residential zone and work on the boundaries at another time, maybe a joint commission and city council meeting.
So we're saying then on that joint meeting, if we go ahead and strike that last line of paragraph 4.5, and we pulled that out, which, you know, basically takes away the height maximum requirement that's there. If we pull that out and then this goes forward as it exists, John, you were saying, for instance, as we come in on that map, maybe we at a different time say, okay, on this map, we're going to say first north is the north boundary, or, you know, we build that structure there. So everything will be two-story north of first north, have that two-story requirement, but everything that is within side of, let's say, first north, 200 East Main Street, and is that the kind of thing that we're talking about, or are we looking at, or even taking that all the way down to first south? I mean, do we make progress, or do we just act stupid by doing that right now? That's
we make progress because we outlined the exact boundaries. Like I said earlier, we ought to maybe use the streets as the edges of the zones and not necessarily people's backyards.
I'm hesitant to do any sort of zone changes right now. We haven't noticed this as a meeting that we're talking about zone changes or anything. And
Correct. That wouldn't be in this meeting. No.
No, we can't do that. I'm just asking, as we go back and have this joint work session, is that what we are planning on doing? Is that what we are planning to
gotcha.
to do? That's my thought right now. And if that's the case, then I'm fine striking that, just as another councilman in the fray here. I'm fine striking that last one with the understanding that we will meet. It won't be passed off, but that we will meet and discuss this particular area of emphasis, you know, going forward.
I agree. That's what we need to do, or you need to do. I'm just here as a educated idiot trying to help right now.
Gee, John, I was just getting ready to second your motion.
So
Be careful. I can't make motions. Remember, I'm just here to I'm not even on my own computer. That's how wild I am tonight.
So are we talking about just removing those few words right at the very end that are in parentheses?
Just that last paragraph, or excuse me, that last sentence that starts with all.
Or are you going to take the whole sentence? Okay, that's what I just wasn't sure.
Because I think what this joint session that I would say, you know, this is contingent upon that joint session. That's where we will determine the edge.
Yeah,
that
do
makes sense.
For sure.
And then go ahead and include the changes that Barbara has asked for, and we all talked about earlier.
I have those written down as well.
So Adam has those. If that is something that everyone can get behind, then I will accept a motion to that effect.
Can we? I want to move back to a discussion on some of the items in number 2 up above.
Okay.
If we could.
Section 2 or 4.2?
Section 2, page 33. Item number 7 says automotive service establishments, including gasoline stations, car wash parking lots, and minor automotive repair establishments. My first question is, what does minor automotive mean? Minor automotive repair. And then down in number 10, we are striking, as I read it, mobile sales structures and lots for both new and used units. So we're going to let you repair your car, but we won't let you sell one in that zone.
Right.
Well, the reason for that, I can answer that because I had number 10 stricken. I didn't want to have a bunch of mom and pop car lots downtown where they just pull out the grass, put in some asphalt and park 15 no beaters on the lot. That doesn't belong in the CC1 zone as far as I'm concerned.
But
That's why that's there.
But then why does a repair zone belong there? Because we've got some repair places around town, and you all know which ones I mean, where they fit exactly what Mr. Woofenden just described. So I don't understand the repairs being there. I understand removing them all or nothing, I guess is what I'm saying. So
Repair shops, especially small ones, are easy to wait a long time to get their repairs made, and the cars are sort of stored to the side while they work on something else.
right.
So I can think of 3 establishments right now inside this zone that fit the automotive service establishments. What I struggle with, but I was okay, is what is minor automotive repair? How do we?
I agree. Anything less than a total rebuild of an engine? Who knows?
What was the thought behind that? Or that's existing language. That's the language that's been in the zone for years now.
Yeah, that's language that's always been in there. And I think if I'm asked to answer that, I think what you'd be looking at is kind of like a tire repair, or I can think of 2 right now that are within the zone. One, I believe, is the TNC, and then the other one just opened up on Main Street on the south side. Basically, I believe it's a tire shop, and they do some like diagnostics and whatnot, oil change. I don't even know if they do oil change, but I think they do like AC repair and whatnot.
Okay.
And that's the problem, Adam. Sometimes when these things get brought up with new people looking at them, these dumb questions about the definition of minor come up, because the 2 or 3 that I'm thinking about are basically repair shops that are in truly residential areas where somebody's built a repair garage on the side of their house, and they have 20 cars there, 10 are in the road. The code officer's constantly battling at least one of them for all of their vehicles and the problems that they cause. But I can think of 2 or 3 that I would say are minor repair shops. But again, I don't know what minor means.
Maybe
And Councilmember Barnes.
Car under 18 years old.
Councilmember Barnes, it's certainly not a dumb question here. It's because, quite frankly, legally, I can't give you a specific definition. What I would, if this issue were to be raised, Adam and I would be looking back at the historic interpretation of that code. And as you pointed out, there's probably some, quote, minor automotive repair places in that zone currently that you would prefer not to see more of those pop up. And so if that's the case, then this would need to be removed, because we would definitely be looking at the historic interpretation of that term. And it is what it is at that point.
Would you do a grandfather or a grandmother clause on the existing ones then?
The existing ones would be grandfathered in until the time that they terminated the use of the land for that purpose. They would not be able to stop and restart at a later date. But as long as it's a continued use for that purpose, then yes, it would be grandfathered in.
Could you put in something that if the business got sold to another individual or another entity, that they would lose that opportunity?
That would be regulated more in terms of the business licensing side of things. And there's certain provisions. Sometimes that's the case, others it's not. But we couldn't just put in there a way to stop what would otherwise be a legal grandfather situation.
And I'm fine with the grandfather. I just don't want it in perpetuity.
Well, I think, Sherlyn, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have to have a break for a full year before they lose that right.
Yeah, as long as the use continues as a general rule, if the use continues, it continues out. But they can't go in and do a tear down of the facility and a rebuild and, increase it in any manner. So that's why there's ways that we would keep an eye on it to make sure it didn't change its use at all or increase its use. But it is there existing now and can continue that use as long as it continues.
But no new ones.
Correct. Well, if you choose to remove that provision from this code, yes.
But the way it's worded now, new ones could be built.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Any additional items, Kevin?
That's it for me. That's enough.
I hate to bring up one more thing, but if you go to item 2.1, I would just like a little clarification on that first sentence, and maybe the language needs to be cleaned up so it's not quite so ambiguous. It says multifamily residential dwellings. So this is permitted uses. Multifamily residential dwellings when located above or adjacent to a permitted commercial non-residential establishment. And I was trying to picture what that would be. I'm not quite clear what that means.
Basically, it's saying you could have residential uses either on top of commercial, or you could have it basically next to a commercial structure.
But does the same owner have to have both structures?
That's not what it says, no. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right.
Remember
That's
on
fine.
Little House in the Prairie, Stacy, where the family lived behind and the store was up front? They had that snotty girl that was always mean to Laura and the rest of the kids. Remember
Yes,
that?
Nellie. Nellie was her name.
Yes, that would be this kind of situation.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you for that
I just
clarification.
wanted to provide a very practical
Adjacent to.
idea of that.
Yeah, Jason does the catch work.
Okay, are there any other items we would like on there before we take action, if there is action to be taken? I have no motion or anything like that, so
Oh, Barbara made motion.
Barbara said so moved to a discussion we were kind of
Oh,
having.
sorry. I took that as well.
She was trying to rope me in as being a part of the city council. I don't want nothing to do with it.
No, I was asking,
sorry.
it was just wishful thinking.
Can we have somebody pull up the motion?
Well, I can try and do it. Sherilyn, can I make a motion as Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd prefer you didn't.
Okay.
Whoa.
Most
What were
people
you
would
saying,
prefer
George?
I didn't, whether I was pro tem or not, but yeah, that, okay. But someone like to, I'm just familiar with everything that we've talked about to this point. And so, I was just willing to consolidate, but I'm happy to have someone else take a shot at this.
I'll go ahead and try. I move to approve the ordinance of adopting an amendment to section 17.4.401 of the American Fork City Development Code entitled CC1 Central Commercial Zone with that one sentence being removed. I can't find it all of a
So
sudden.
that is section 4.5, the removal of the final sentence in section 5 or
Okay.
point 5, all buildings and structures located at the
Yeah.
edge of the CC1 zone.
So
And
yeah,
then
I just
we
couldn't
have-
find it right then. So with the removal in section 4.5, the last sentence in paragraph 5.
Okay, and then we also had Barbara's, the point Barbara brought attention to.
Gasoline service, the exception of gasoline service stations.
20 feet could
Okay.
be 15.
And Adam had
And
notes on that.
drive-throughs not permitted with the exception of drive-through only establishments.
And then we were also going to make this contingent, and well, I don't know whether it's contingent, but we didn't want this to get pushed aside. We want to be able to have a joint meeting with the planning commission and the city council to kind of nail the specifics of the edges and the borders of the zones, etc. I don't know how we work that in.
Councilmember Taylor, I would ask that that not be included in the motion for the passing of this particular ordinance, because that wouldn't be included in that. And that be a conversation with the mayor to get that on an agenda.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree
So
with
we have
that.
so we have a motion from Kevin with all of the beautiful nuances we've added to that. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Barnes. We have a second from Councilmember Christiansen. Is there any additional comments or questions on the motion?
As the maker of the motion, do I have to agree to accept all of those
Yes.
amendments? So done.
I was just thinking, since you kind of left it open-ended and we went ahead and filled it in for you, Kevin, it was all there, but that's great.
That works for me too. Either way, I'm fine.
Is there any additional question on the motion?
And who seconded the motion?
Barbara
Councilmember.
Christiansen. Are you okay with that, Councilmember Christiansen?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, now, any additional questions on the motion? Hearing none, we will vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Nay, and if I could just make the comment, I just still concerned about transportation, haven't had a good answer on that, so I'm worried about that. So if I can get a good answer on that, I'd love to still have that conversation.
Okay, Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor, I vote aye as well. Thank you. We will now move into item number 6. And that is,
Councilman Taylor, can I ask you a question first?
yes, please.
And I guess it's for Adam as much as anything. I know our next agenda, our next meeting in Planning Commission doesn't have any agenda items. We're going to have some training from the city lawyer. Would that be a good date to maybe have this next meeting now that the motion's been done and passed on the amendment?
I think we'll leave that to
Time
the
have
mayor.
joint meeting.
I think what we should do is leave that to the mayor to kind of schedule that, and then we can let you know, and then we'll invite all the planning commissioners as well.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, review and action on a resolution approving a land use map amendment from the high density residential to the general commercial designation located at 96 South, 100 East.
If I could, this kind of goes hand in hand with the following agenda item, just immediately following it. It's a land use and zone map amendment for the property at 96 South, 100 East. They're looking to change the zoning from the R4 7500 to the CC1. This is the applicant. There's a real estate agent, and then also the Children's Justice Center is looking to locate at this facility or at this location. In order to do so, the zone needs to be changed, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of this, and now it's before you tonight.
Thank you, Adam. Members of the council, are there questions or discussion? If not, I'd accept a motion.
I did have a question on if you could just tell me exactly, because like the shape of this one is different than the shape of the next item, the next map. I was just wondering if there could be some clarification on the.
So we included the area of the library on the land use map amendment because for whatever reason that was still designated as higher density residential, even though the library has been there for a number of years. And so it just cleans that up is what it's doing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the zone is for the individual property of the home, the current home, but the land use map amendment, we drew in the property of the city property where the library is just to clean that up.
Adam, wouldn't it make sense that the library is in a PF zone?
That's my question.
Park.
I don't know if the park is in a PF zone right now, but yeah, I mean, that's another city initiated zone change that could take place for city properties. Right now, the library is zoned CC1 and it has been for a number of years. It's probably been that way for, I don't know, probably as long as the zoning was in place in that area. And the
I think
park
it's
is as
because-
well, but that could be changed to PF for sure.
It has the post office beforehand, and that's why it was in a CC1. I think when they built the library, they just never got around to changing that to the PF. But
That would make sense.
I would suggest getting it in the PF, kind of as we've done this cleanup, and make it clear, just like as you had the other map up, it showed all the city buildings, administration building, everything else is in that PF zone.
Could be a discussion for another time, though. So what's on the agenda tonight is to take it to the general commercial.
So I think
Yeah, and
that's
that's
what
for
we're,
the property of the home itself. Again, we just threw this in there just to clean that up so it wasn't still in high density residential. But if the council chooses to leave that as it is for now and focus only on the site of the home, that can be done as well.
And I'm here to represent the Children's Justice Center in case there are any questions about how it will be used if we get the property.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions for Ms. Allen or staff on this?
I think this is a good stepping stone to making everything on that first south. I mean, this was the holding area for residential historically in that zone. And just like our prior conversation about cleaning things up, this now pushes commercial onto that first south,
This would take it down to that boundary, yes.
where, usually that was always being held there. So again, a big fan of having an overall plan that's congruent with everything. So I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Is there a motion in there somewhere, Rob?
Sure, I'll give a motion to approve.
Thank you. Have a motion from Councilmember Shelton.
It's a
I will
beautiful
s-
home, by the way. Very beautiful home.
I will second it. And yes, it is a beautiful building. It's been well taken care of. It doesn't look anywhere near its 120 plus years, almost 130 years old. I will say that I did have some concerns when I first saw this because I didn't know what the ultimate use of it was. But once we found out that it was the Children's Justice Center for them to use, then I wholeheartedly support it. But that lack of information was a real problem for me to start with. I'm not blaming anybody other than myself.
Blame is duly noted, Kevin. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll accept a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor, I vote aye as well. Thank you. Action item number 7, review and action on an ordinance. And thank you very much, Ms. Allen, for being in our meeting with us tonight. Action item number 7, review and action on an ordinance approving a zone map amendment from R4 7500 residential to the CC1 central commercial zone located at 96 South 100 East. This should be fairly straightforward. We know what's happening based on the last motion. So I would accept a new motion for this.
Did we just jinx it by saying this should be pretty simple and easy?
Ah,
Well, I did take a chance. You're absolutely right.
I'll move to adopt the ordinance approving a zone map amendment from the R4 7500 residential to the CC1 commercial zone located 96 South 100 East.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton.
Hey,
Second,
boy, you're quick.
I'm just
Councilmember,
following Rob's example.
Councilmember Christiansen. I appreciate the quickness, incidentally. Any question or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
aye.
Councilmember Taylor. I vote aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you.
Thank you very much.
You got them already, Kevin. Okay, action item number 8, review and action on subdivisions, commercial projects, condominiums, and PUDs, including plat approval, method of satisfaction of water right requirements, posting of an improvement bond or setting a time frame for improvement installation, and 4, authorization to sign the final plat and acceptance of all dedications to the public to have plat recorded. First, we'll begin with A, review and action on the final plat of Roderick Catalyst Subdivision Phase 2, located in the area of 1600 South, 450 East in the PI1 Planned Industrial Zone. Any comments from staff or questions from the council?
I'll move to approve the final plat of Articala subdivision phase 2 located in the area of 1600 South, 450 East in the PI1 industrial. Lost the motion there.
Industrial Zone.
Industrial zone.
Thank you very much. Have a motion from Councilmember Shelton.
Second.
Second
With
from
all-
Councilmember Barnes.
Just real quick, with all the conditions identified in the public record associated with September 16th, 2020.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor, I vote aye as well. Thank you. B, review and action on the final plats for Rockwell Ranch Block 3, Phase 1, consisting of 55 units located at approximately 1060 West, 480 South in the TOD zone. Comments from staff, questions from the council? Pretty straightforward as outlined in the packet. I will accept a motion if there is one.
I will move to approve the final plats for Rockwell Ranch Block 3, Phase 1, consisting of 55 units located at approximately 1060 West, 480 South in the TOD zone, and to authorize the mayor and city council to sign the plat and accept the dedication with instructions to the city recorder to withhold recording of the plat subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the September 16th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Carroll. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Second by Councilmember Shelton. So moved by Councilmember Shelton. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. And finally, C, review and action on the final plats for the Rockwell Ranch Block 5, Phase 1, consisting of 48 units located approximately 1060 West, 560 South in the TOD zone.
I'll move to approve the final plats for the Rockwell Ranch Block 5, Phase 1, consisting of 48 units located approximately 1060 West, 560 South in the TOD zone, and authorize the mayor and city council to sign the plat and accept the dedications with instructions of the city recorder with whole recording of the plat subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the September 16th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Barnes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Item number 9, review and action of a reimbursement agreement with Patterson Construction, Inc. for system improvements associated with the Peak Meadows project.
I'll move to approve the reimbursement agreement with Patterson Construction as presented.
Have a motion by Councilmember Shelton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Barnes. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll go for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Item number 10 is like Intuit reimbursement. Review and action on a reimbursement agreement for 620 South with Quelo LLC. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. For
Yeah.
system improvements associated with the AF10 subdivision.
I'll move the reimbursement agreement for 620 South with Kalo LLC.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Have a motion.
Second.
Was that, I'm sorry, who was that?
That was me. I'll second.
Councilmember Carroll, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Item number 11, review and action on a reimbursement agreement for 620 South with Kalo LLC for system improvements associated with the AFPD South PUD development.
I'll move to approve the reimbursement agreement with Caleb LLC.
Motion by Councilmember Shelton,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Item number 12 has been pulled from the agenda, as well as item number 13. So we will now go with action item number 14, review and action on a construction contract for the 36-inch water improvements project. Comments and direction from staff or questions from the council, please.
Just excited that we're moving ahead with this.
Absolutely.
I think we
So-
all are.
The only question I had there, that 10 million, does that include all the improvements that we talked about up above? The storm drain and everything of that nature?
David, would you address that, please?
Yeah, so everything that's in the bid package there is included in the base bid, the 10.356813.
Correct. That's
So
this is the complete.
Those are line item items, so you can see how many, that we have a quantity times a price to give us the total. So it includes everything within the bid package.
I apologize, Mr. Sensenbauer. I yielded to Mr. Bunker on that. The sheen from your head threw me completely off, and I immediately went to Mr. Bunker.
I always yield to Mr. Bunker too.
Very good.
And I did notice that Mr. Bunker used the word base.
Yes, if you
As he
if you look at the
described
bid-
this.
Yeah, if you look at the bid package, there is a total base bid, and there is an additive alternate at the city's discretion.
Well,
So
the other thing I was going to say, we all know that it won't be a base when it's done because there'll be a whole bunch of add-ons based on experience I've had in some other projects of this type, not this
Well,
big.
Hopefully not too many. I mean, you know, we're the change order. We're gonna hold it as strict as we can, but there are often a few changes and unexpected conditions. But I don't anticipate a whole lot on this. I'm hoping and planning not.
It's a large project.
It is.
And Mr. Sensenbauer is correct. There's bound to be some field conditions that are different than what we anticipate that we'll have to work through with the contractor. But our inspectors do a great job. Our engineers do a great job. They're very careful on what those change orders are, and they have to be absolutely necessary to be approved. So,
And what was your time frame on this, David, the completion?
excuse me, I didn't hear that. What was that?
The time frame of completion on this project?
That is, it's anticipated, I believe, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we give them, I want to say this was a year to do it all.
It's in there and I thought it was less than that, but I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's like November of next year. November 1st was one date, November 15th was the other.
I just pulled it up right now. So
See, I did read it.
As usual, David is correct.
And so, man, you must have an evaluation coming up here pretty soon, Scott. That's all I got to say. There's a lot of good comments thrown that direction.
Well, it makes up for all the insults. Makes up for all the insulting I do to him in private. So
There you go. The question I had on that is obviously with the school being there, I'm anticipating that going from 3rd North to 7th North to be done during the summertime.
It's one of those
Minimize the
things.
disruption of the school.
I hate to say it. I wish we would be able to do all of the work in front of the school without any disruption. There's going to be disruption. It's just there's no way around it. There's too much work that's got to be done. We're going to have to work as much as we can, coordinate, communicate, provide alternative routes, but there's no way we'll be able to get in, out, have everything done, buttoned up in the time school's out. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
Someone say hello on that.
But I pledge we'll coordinate and communicate and over communicate on that.
It's hard because that school only has one other exit, and that's all on the 7th, and so 7th East, and that's my big worry. You can't put that volume down that road. So just be as use the best judgment you can, I guess. But that's my big worry.
Well, let me clarify. I don't mean that we're going to be shutting it down for this whole time. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to pretty much avoid as many shutdowns, if any, as possible. I'm not saying it will be zero, but even when things aren't shut down and it's torn up, there's still disruption, even when you can drive through it. And so we're just gonna work and do our best and make sure the contractor does their best as well. But it will be have moments where it'll be difficult, I'm afraid.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Mr. Sensenbauer. Thank you for your input as well, Rob and Kevin, on this. Could I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve and accept the bid by Condi Construction Company for the construction of the 36-inch water main improvements project in the amount of $10,356,813.70 and approve the construction contract as presented.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember Shelton.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Barnes. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Action item number 15. Review and action on a construction contract for the 200 South Water Main Improvements Project.
The only comment I have here is I put that in the email I sent back out to everybody as I met with the residents down there. I think we really need to have a good road plan in place. If not within 3 months of funding, we got to find an alternative that we can present down there, because this will take about a year as well. I'd like to be able to be ahead of the game. I think it'd be good for the city to build goodwill down there to say, hey, this is what's going to happen once this water project is done. Because it as well is going to be an interesting disruption down there. Even the small mains that we changed out this last year, the only thing I would ask is if we don't use those stoplights, is there a way not to use those at all?
Do you mean a temporary one lane restriction where we use stoplights to control that?
Yeah. It got to be pretty difficult. It seemed to be, it was inconsistent, so you could see no one was coming, but the light was red. I don't know. It'd be nice if we could just try to work at that as best we could. But anyway.
So Councilor Shelton, one of the things that is a requirement is the contractor, once this is awarded and the contract is signed, is that they have to submit us a traffic control plan, which we will review and approve, and we'll make sure and look at all of those things, because again, this is going to be, there's going to be disruptions.
Right.
And we want to make sure that they're doing everything they can to minimize it. So we'll scrutinize their traffic control plans very closely.
Okay.
Thank you for that that discussion. With that, do we have a motion?
I'll make
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, go ahead, Kevin.
I move that we accept the bid submitted by B.D. Bush Excavation for construction of the 200 South Water Main Improvements Project in the amount of $3,375,961.60 and approve the construction contract as presented.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Barnes. You're right on there. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilmember Carroll. Thank you very much. With that, is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
She took a break.
Christiansen, you may have your Kipper muted there. Councilmember, is she still with us? on the Barbara still
She
here?
just stepped away from her chair for a minute.
Okay, we'll come back to her. Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Councilmember Christiansen, are you back?
I'm back. I had to make sure my son wasn't eating contaminated food.
Gotta make sure that the biscuits and everything are clean there, don't you, Barbara? You can't have anything bad going on. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Thank you. Action item number 16. Review and action on a professional services contract for the American Fork River Rehabilitation Environmental Project.
I have a question. I would hope Mr. Sensenbauer would tell us how you rehabilitate a river.
Well, lots of counseling, lots and lots of counseling. Well,
They're heavy drinkers and it's tough to overcome.
they are, and sometimes they spill where they shouldn't. So, this is doing some work on some of those crossings where we have some of the culverts, some of the road crossings. Some of those need some work, and this is the environmental work associated with it. And of course, then we're partnering with a couple of the neighboring cities have asked to be able to partner with us on some of that so that it can be cleared through the NRCS together. No extra cost to the city on that, but we think it's a good opportunity for us to get their work done, and no cost or delay to us helps some of our neighbors too. So
Out of curiosity there, is that whereabouts on the river are we talking about?
So there's a couple of spots. It's really a lot of it through kind of near the where I am here in the Public Works Yard. Going down south is several locations as some of those box structures need some work.
Okay.
So there's a couple of them. But it's mostly this section of through here, if you will.
I don't know if it's possible, but if we could look at also what it would be for a budget item. I brought that up in my email as well with the residents down there on 200 South and on that south side where those trees are in the river. They're growing out into the right of way. I know that down there, I forgot his name, right there on 4th South and 1st East, where the river goes to his backyard, he literally cut in half old water heaters to stabilize the bank of the river, because the concrete comes right through and it's like a big gush, and then it would eat away at the friction there on those water heaters. So I just think there's some work we could look at to try to clean that up a little bit.
Refresh my memory. What intersection did you just say?
Sure, it's 4th South and 1st East, but it's going to be a little bit further west. There's the bridge right there by the trailer park. And
Webster's?
Yeah, Leroy Webster. He's the
Okay.
one that cut those in half and put those water heaters right there. Probably to save his property from that that erosion that was taking place there. And then again, if we could have any budgetary items, I know it's not particular to this, but just as we're talking about the American Fork River, as we look at next year, I think it'd be good to try to find some funding to do some maintenance down there. The sticky note, good.
Just made note of that. We'll take care of it. Just so you know, one of the big parts of this project is doing some work also at 200 South by Greenwood Elementary. And a lot of that is in preparation to put that roundabout in that also got funded to really fix that intersection. So, I mean, there's several locations, but I just, as you saw, I made a note to check on that as well for the future.
When is this scheduled to be completed?
So this is the environment. I'm sorry, this is the environmental work. Anytime you're doing work in a river like that, there's quite a bit that's got to be done. So that process is not as quick as you would ever like it to be, but it'll be this year. If I'm pretty sure I can get an exact date for you, and if I'm wrong, I'll send you a correction email, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to get this done, have this ready to go. And the idea is to be able to do it as quickly as possible. We can get the clearance on this and then get the work done too.
Scott, are you referencing the fiscal year, but not the calendar year? I don't, it won't be done by the end of December.
Sorry, fiscal year. Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you. See, again.
I was very impressed there.
Yeah, sorry. When I'm thinking year, that's what I'm meaning is, yeah, and with the work then being done, as soon thereafter as we can get this cleared and the design work done.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the design contract for the American Fork River Rehabilitation Environmental Project, the amount of $400,000, and authorize the city to enter an agreement with Franson Civil Engineers.
Thank you very much, Councilmember
Second.
Shelton. A second from Councilmember Christiansen. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll accept a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Thank you. Action item number 17 has been pulled from the agenda. We'll go forward with action item number 18. Review and action on an approval of the CMGC contract for Fire Station 52, or as Chief Brem says, Fire Station 52.
If I could just real quick, I'd love to give a little report. I apologize for my tardiness. I was coaching flag football and I went a little bit long and I was rushing home. So I missed the council report, but dispatch did have a good report. The technology we're putting into these, which will include Station 5.2, has increased our response, cut it down, I guess I should say, by about 20 seconds, which is huge in the public safety realm. And so the redundancy that's being built in with the technology, I'm excited about, in addition to the station being built as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Any other discussion or items from staff or questions from the council?
This is
I'm gonna
not
still call
related,
Go ahead.
not related to that, but if you've sat and listened to the dispatch, 52 and 62 sound a lot alike. That's why they say 5.2 and 6.2.
There you go. So we have been educated and enlightened on this item tonight, and we appreciate that. Scott, maybe you could make a post-it note on that so that you could use that for future reference. I think Councilmember Christiansen would be just fine with you referencing her in that explanation.
I'm going to do that, and that's good to know. Now I understand why he says 5.2. I've been saying 52, but I still say Aaron Brems is A0K.
Okay.
Love it.
I will accept. I'm lukewarm on it, Barbara, to be honest. I could accept a motion if there's one out there for us, please.
I do have one question really fast.
Okay.
This contract is to get the contractor on board as we design it, which is not uncommon. I'm just wondering, because it's been such a long time since we approved the designer, have they already designed a large portion of it?
There is a significant portion that has been done of what's called the schematic design. And we're just beginning what's the next phase in architect lingo of the design development. So we've got a lot of the basic shell and the outline and the floor plan. Having them on board, this is really about the optimum time to have them on board, because as we really get into a lot of the details, that's where they're going to be able to help do it. You don't want to have them on too early, and I don't think this is too early, or it's too late either. I think this is just about
Okay.
right.
All right, that's what I was getting at. I didn't want to have to pay to redesign something.
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay.
No, I feel
perfect.
very, very confident that there won't be any redesign.
I do
Okay.
have a question on page 184 of the packet. And I have to see it to know exactly what my question is. I have 513. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's the,
Getting close.
Where are we, I'm sorry, where are we looking?
513.
Page 184.
It's right there at the bottom. There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there we are. Pre-construction space services covered by this agreement have not been completed within April 15th, 2020, months of the date. That's something obviously wrong.
That, oh my goodness, that's supposed to be 2021. It is. Yep. Sorry about that.
I saw that,
2021.
Barbara, and just thought it as a placeholder.
No,
That's how dumb
that
I
was-
am.
But
that was my
still,
goof.
that still doesn't sound right, though. Completed within April 15th, 2021 months of the date of this agreement.
Yeah,
It should just read 6 months.
Yeah, sorry. What the idea is that we want to make sure by that date they've done with their pre-construction services. If for some reason it's something that we've done to delay it or whatever, that's their fault, then we look at that compensation. So poorly written, sorry, it was admittedly late when I was doing this, so
I would
not that
suggest
that's
more
an
sleep in the.
excuse.
I would suggest more sleep in the future.
Yeah,
Bauer, I want to make sure that you're
sorry,
functioning
beauty
well.
sleep. Need more
But
beauty.
everyone deserves one mistake, and there you've had yours for 2020. So
Well, there's two of them there though, because there was the date of the year and then the months. So
Gotcha.
I would request that maybe the council let us just change that to have not been completed by April 15th, 2021.
I would be in favor of that as well. Okay. Any additional discussion or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the CMGC contract for Station 5-2 with the change on the date to say April 15th, 2021 and strike the following word months.
Thank you. Have a motion from Councilmember Shelton.
I'll second.
Second from Councilmember Carroll. Any further discussion? I'm excited to get this going. It's going to be wonderful. We'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and I will vote as well. Aye on that. Thank you. Action item number 19, review and action on a resolution approving interlocal agreement with Utah County for substance misuse prevention services and communities that care prevention model. If we could have an
Did we,
Did we skip the T-Mobile land lease?
He's on the
There's-
old agenda. He's on the
There
old
was an
agenda.
amended agenda.
Sorry, I have my packet open and I am not on that one, so please forgive me. It's like I'm Mr. Caveman here or something, looking at the old stuff. So
It's on the
That's your
screen.
mistake for 2020.
It's working on 2050.
I stole
yeah,
that from
sorry
John.
about that. I'm just trying to keep ahead. Review and action on a first amendment to the T-Mobile land lease agreement dated October 23rd, 2018.
I'll make a motion to approve the First Amendment on the T-Mobile land lease agreement.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Councilmember Christiansen on the second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Thank you. We will have action item number 20. And let's see if we can move that. I will get off my. Okay. Review and action on a resolution approving the interlocal agreement with Utah County for substance misuse prevention services and communities that care prevention model. Have staff or someone address this for us, please.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at this one. Or Terrellin, if you wanted to. I saw you coming up towards the mic. Go ahead.
If you remember last year, the city council approved an interlocal agreement. It's March of 2019 for the communities that care. And this is just a renewal of that interlocal agreement.
Thank you, Carolyn. We appreciate that. If there are no additional questions, I would accept the motion.
I would just like to, we've been doing this for a year and it was sort of, they told us at the time, you know, they had 1 year's worth of funding. It looks like they have a match still. So it's the same as it was last year, which is awesome. I'm totally happy to support it. But at some point, not a rush, I'd love to hear from the people that run this program and just get a little report to hear how it's going and see what difference they're making in the city.
I would agree. I think that's a great thing. I'll make a note for the mayor and see if he can maybe schedule that on a workstation. Councilmember Carroll, I think that would be a good idea.
With that, I will move to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement with Utah County for substance misuse prevention services and the communities that care prevention model.
Thank you, Councilmember Carroll, for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Christiansen. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
And Councilmember Taylor votes aye as well. Next, item number 21, consideration and action to enter into a closed session to discuss items described in Utah State Code 52-4-204 and 52-4-205. I will accept the motion.
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilmember Barnes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Shelton on the second. Before we vote on this, we will, if this passes, we will go into a closed session and we will return back to this Zoom number. Is that correct? To adjourn?
That's correct.
Okay.
There will be a separate Zoom meeting for the closed session, which you have a separate link in your email for that closed session.
Is it in the same email or a separate email?
Separate email from me.
David, would you mind sending that to me again? I'm having trouble with my AF City email. So if you would send that to me, I would appreciate it.
I'll do that right now.
So do we close this one and then open it again afterward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we'll close this. We will come back in and open. We will have item number 22, adjournment, and we will go from there. So all in favor of moving into a closed session, please say aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Oh, he did it. Excellent.
Start a second one. It won't be nearly as long, I hope.
Hi, all. Welcome back to a council meeting. Good to see you all here. I believe we have everyone here. Now that we're back, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
We have a motion from Council Member Carroll. Do I have a second?
Oh, there's Barbara. Second.
Kevin identifies Barbara and seconds the motion, which is always nice. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much. We are adjourned at 9:16 p.m.
If we can just make note, we were missing one council member in that unanimous vote to adjourn.
We were missing one council member in the unanimous vote to adjourn, Carolyn.
Who will remain unnamed.
That council member is Council Member Rob Shelton. He has gone back to finish his flag football game.
Can I make one comment? I have a plat here in the back that needs to be signed if you guys can stop by at some point.
Just
Thank you very
one.
much.
Just one for now.
I don't think any of us ought to do that tonight. I think we should wait till tomorrow.
I'll be
that might
there.
be a good thing.
I'll be there in 5.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll be here.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
I didn't
everyone.
say-
Good night.
Great job.